As you know, in next year, 2008, the Beijing is hosting the 2008 Olympic Games. So during that time, when every country in the world would be representing the nation at the Games, it's only us as Tibetans who cannot represent because we don't have a country.
The current situation in Tibet is no better than it was when we lost our country initially and we all fled to India. Even now there's a continuous flow of refugees coming to India every year, about 2,500 to 3,000 Tibetans coming out to exile every year. And God knows how many get sent back and get caught in the border because they all travel without passes.
No, I mean last year in September, 30th September, I mean there were a group of about 70 young Tibetans fleeing Tibet, and they were shot upon by by the Chinese border police. So I mean that this trend has been highlighted by the Nangbala killing. There are many Tibetans who flee Tibet for several reasons. I think the younger Tibetans flee because they are deprived of education in Tibet, and they want to be be exposed or have access to a decent education. There's also a large majority who feel they do not have the right spiritual education in Tibet. So many young Tibetans come to exile to become monks or nuns and to pursue their higher spiritual education.
In Tibet today, when I use the word genocide, I do not use it lightly. In the 60s, they were actually using physical force to kill the able-bodied, separating families, using the men as slaves, the women in prostitution, the children for indoctrination to be brought up as Chinese. Now today something far more dangerous is happening, where in the name of economic development and progress, the Chinese allow some minimal day-to-day freedom to the Tibetans. The tourists come and see some evidence of normal life, but in the meanwhile, millions of Chinese settlers are moving into Tibet. There's intermarriage, forced abortions, birth control among Tibetans, and to that extent, we are facing a situation where the Tibetan people, to regain a Tibet for Tibetans, for us, time is running out.
First of all, they in the 60s they destroyed most of the temples. They just keep some temples and the Potala Palace in Lhasa, for example, to make money out of it. It's an empty palace. There is nothing to see almost, but it's $10 of entry fee, and yeah, just for the Western tourists and especially for the Chinese tourists. And I don't know, there are no locals anymore, and if you see locals, you think they are actors, just to keep the image of Tibet.
Yeah, the basic human rights inside Tibet, it's still denied by the Chinese government. You don't have freedom of speech. You don't have freedom to profess the religion. Even taking a picture of Dalai Lama is punishable under Chinese law, especially in around Lhasa and some other big cities.
And if you stay there for a few weeks, then you start crying. You really start crying. I was standing on the rooftop of the Potala Palace, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I thought, well, this was the home of the Dalai Lama, and he had to escape. And now, I don't know, it's like he himself, he says it's so strange to live in Dharamsala because it's his exile, and he would like to go back to Lhasa as a not as an official anymore, just like a normal person, but he's not allowed to. And you just, I can't understand it. I mean, I have my home and I can go there, but the Tibetans, they don't have a home anymore, or if they have, then it's not a living.
And whatever voice, opposition voice against communism, against the government, is regarded as, you know, anti-national or separatist, you know. And the government, they are very harsh on dissidents. And for the children's, you know, you can't study, you don't have the right to study in your own mother tongue. Every children has to learn, you know, Chinese. In that way, slowly, you know, the China is trying to sinocize.
Many youngsters want a democracy in China. And this is something China keep on telling that, okay, they want their communists, but many youngsters, educated youngsters, scholars want democratic in China. See the Tiananmen Square, 1989 Tiananmen Square, they have killed their own people, they have killed their own youngsters, which they want human rights violation, they want human rights good record, and also democratic in China. Related to the Falun Gongs, related with many minorities in China, they really want a freedom, religious freedom and political freedom, cultural freedom. They want any kind of freedom.
And the communist regime, you know, is using its power, is using its money, you know, it needs resources to run its economy. In that way, it is helping the military regime, especially in Africa, like the regimes where these regimes who doesn't provide freedom to its own people, especially if we take the example of Sudan, you know, where hundreds, you know, millions of people have died under the Sudanese regime, which is being backed by the Chinese government. When every country wanted to send, you know, wanted to do military intervention inside Sudan, it was China who vetoed. So to bring changes in Africa, we must first bring change in China.
So we don't need any kind of strong evidence. Whole international community knows that there's a strong human rights violation. If you go in Tibet, there's a strong religious violation in Tibet. No doubt about those political prisoners, they were put inside the jail without any kind of fair trial. China keep on telling that Tenzin Delhi Rinpoche and many other political prisoners were put inside, they were life sentenced, put inside the jail for 20-25 years under a fair trial, but that was not.